Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FESPA podcast, Up Close and Personal with me, Richard Askam, and my guest today, Marshall Atkinson, all the way from sunny Phoenix. How are you doing, Marshall?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for the opportunity to talk with you and your amazing audience. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, it's really interesting, actually, since we started this podcast back in January. It's really been watched literally all over the world by so many different people. And that's great because part of the point of it is to bring this conversation and to grow this conversation around the topic of personalization. Ahead of this, over my shoulder here, the Personalisation Experience, which is coming your way in May in Munich for 3 days, a deep dive conference really into so many different perspectives and so many different viewpoints of what people think about personalization. And that kind of leads me nicely into my first question for you today, Marshall, which is, what does personalization mean to you?
Well, personalization for me is, guess what? It's all about me. It's not about you, Richard. It's about me and what I like and what I enjoy. You know, if I was going to be in Munich, I would have a Hefeweizen. That's my favorite beer, right? That's a Munich type brew, right? And I wouldn't be going for stouts or porters or anything that you might have in England, right? It's all about that cloudy wheat beer, right? So it's what I like. And so everything about personalization has to be about the individual. It doesn't matter what the mass group of people want. And I'm in the decorated apparel space. So I've been in the, just call it t-shirt game for a while, right? And there's a lot of really fascinating things that are happening with that, right? And so we used to, you know, as recently as like 5 or 10 years ago, everything was about printing mass quantities of stuff, right? So we would, you know, let's say there's a t-shirt design, we're going to be printing thousands of these things, and they're going to go into a warehouse, and then that warehouse is going to ship it to the store, right? That was the model, right? Yep. And so now what's happening is we have platforms like Shopify or other platforms where somebody from their kitchen table can launch a t-shirt line, their own brand, from their own point of view, which could be about rock and roll or politics or flowers or whatever, right? And they're going to sell that online. And how they do it effectively is by printing to the scale of one. Yeah. Right. So we no longer are printing lots of things. Now we're trying to do things with the scale of one. So we've pared that down and we've got really great tools out there. And that is direct to garment printing, which is a digital printer that prints. And I'm not going to go into all the specifics of the production, but it prints one shirt at a time using basically CMYK dot jet printing, you know, and then inkjet printing. And then we've got another thing that's come out recently, which is called direct to film transfers. So this is really taking over and I think is getting some really good market share, where we're printing with a digital wide format printer using and applying adhesive to the back of the print onto some film, and then using a heat press to apply to the garment. This is really popular, especially with online stores, because you can just do somebody's name or a picture of their car or whatever they want on the shirt. It's really easy to do. They can just upload the artwork. We can print something and it can go on virtually anything, right? It doesn't have to be a t-shirt. It could be a tote bag. It could be a tennis shoe. It could be a notebook, right? It could be a block of wood. It could be all kinds of things, because we're using a heat press to heat up the adhesive to apply it to whatever the substrate is, okay? Yep. So we're thinking about personalizing things. It's like, what we want to figure out is, how are we getting that person's idea, like out of their head, through some sort of website or online store or whatever they're doing, and into how we're going to decorate the item, right? Yep. I think that's what makes it really fascinating. And there's huge revenue opportunities for people who can make a frictionless experience, because if you want to really irritate people, put a lot of roadblocks in the way, and and they'll just stop doing it, right?
Yep.
So we want to make it frictionless. I want my dog or my cat or my kid's picture of the rainbow that they drew, right? We
Yep.
want to put that onto something. How can we do it? So that makes it unique to me. That makes it valuable to me. That means that I'm going to spend my hard-earned money for it.
Yep.
Because it's unique. It's a unicorn. There's only one of it in the world, right?
Sure. Yep.
And so that's what I'm willing to pay for, right?
Yep.
And I think that makes it really really valuable when we go down that route and we try to cater to the individual, right?
And that's the key word, I think, Marshall, and something that I've asked a few times now of people, that if we started this journey again back to the sort of the beginning of variable data and digital print, and the ability really, and also the willingness to look at things as units of one, maybe we should have started by calling this individualization, because I think
Right.
we've all got a little bit trapped in a world where personalized means, oh, you mean your name on something. And the answer is no, that's one of the things that it is, but it's not all of the things that it is. And a couple of things that you said there sort of make me feel as though that's possibly the way we should have gone, and maybe we should reinvent this and go back to the beginning. Because now, of course, a little bit like media, everybody's a broadcaster if they want to be, because they can be. So in theory, everybody's a t-shirt shop if they want to be, because they can be. Now, it doesn't mean they should, it just means that they can. So where do you see, instead of encouraging 300 million people to set up their own print shop, where do you see the opportunities for existing print shops to take advantage of that new way of thinking?
Well, I think first off, you have to have a way to get the orders in, right? There has to be some sort of vehicle, which is a website platform that already does this, that you just pay the subscription fee. There's plenty of them out there. Or you're designing this yourself, right? So you could use common tools, WordPress, whatever, and you can use Google Form, Typeform, whatever, submit your artwork, that type of thing. It doesn't have to be anything super crazy. It just has to work, right? And then, of course, you're marketing your experience and doing it that way, right? But I think another really cool way of doing it would be to do it at a venue, right? So think about the sporting match that you might go to, right? Where somebody wants to personalize a t-shirt or a product. Is there a way that they could enter, there's a user interface there, maybe it's a big touch screen TV, they can pick and choose whatever they want, and they could upload a picture from their phone or whatever they're doing, and then poof, out comes their product. They could pick up later, or they could do it right there. There's plenty of live printing scenarios that you could do. When you engage with somebody on that level, what happens is you're driving more fun, you're driving more engagement. People will pay more money for something that's for me. So think about, so Richard, what's your favorite sports team?
I'm going to say Manchester United.
Manchester United. So you're at the Manchester United match. There's a kiosk there where you could get, maybe there's a team photo. Imagine the team photo there where you could upload your picture and now you're in the back row, right? And it looks like you're part of that team, and that's printed on a t-shirt or whatever, some other thing, right? And then, so if you're a super fan, how much would you pay for that?
That's a really good question, actually. I don't know. I mean, I guess whatever they asked, because it.
Yeah. So it's like one of these things where if we can make it so it's unique to you, you're in the thing, and there's plenty of interesting concepts that are coming up right now using artificial intelligence, using Chat GPT or Midjourney or whatever, where we could upload something and instantly morphs it into something else. Using the right, this is where I think the really smart people, the nerds out there, are going to invent something. I don't have it, right? I don't have that. I wish I did. That's going to allow you to have that experience. That's going to drive a market differentiating platform that's going to make people instant gazillionaires. Okay.
Yeah, well,
And
that sounds like a lot.
yeah, well, it's just that's what happens, right? And because you've got something that somebody else doesn't that works, right? And when we take it and we apply it, and I think the real interesting thing here is with the artificial intelligence is if we know some things, we can predict some other things, we can produce a different outcome, right? And so
Yeah.
somebody was talking the other day, and they were mentioning that Chat GPT is basically like autocomplete on steroids, right? So imagine like your refrigerator. If it knew what was in the refrigerator and you're like, what should I eat today? Click a button and it gives you 3 recipes to pick from, right? Then that's using Chat GPT for a result, right? So how can we use that, or how can we use Midjourney, for example, to create artwork where we're going to upload my photo or my picture of my dog or something, and then out comes, I match that up with Manchester United for an outcome that's unique to me, and then we can get that through a funnel system and onto a product, and then there's no 2 pieces of artwork alike. I own that, right? That could also be an instant NFT that on the blockchain that proves that you own it. That's like the hologram sticker that you might see somewhere. There's so many different things that can go on with what's going on that's unique to you. It's mind-boggling, right? And it's hard to keep up with, frankly.
Absolutely. You're listening to the Up Close and Personal podcast with me, Richard Askam, and my guest today, Marshall Atkinson. And that's fascinating, Marshall, because one of the things that of course is most definitely the case. Capability is one thing, willingness is everything. And you and I sit here in our, let's say, in our late 20s, maybe early 30s. But when we look at today's teenagers and what's available to them to be able to, and I use the word manipulate in a good sense, as in creatively, create things for themselves so that they stand out. Because your point earlier that it's only 10 years ago that everybody wanted everything the same, and now everybody wants something different. So using that sort of logic around AI and some of this, I'm going to call it newfangled stuff that I don't understand.
Right.
What do you see coming down the tracks for because personalization is a notion we all accept.
Yeah.
Individualization as the outcome is an absolute given. So where do you see the journey from here with the consumers of today/tomorrow?
Well, there's several things that are coming up, right? So you have the people that are trying to connect that AI kind of thing, like I was just talking about. I know people right now, I've talked to them that are working on that, right? They don't have anything right now. They're still monkeying around with it. It could be tomorrow, it could be a year from now. Who knows, right? There's going to be early versions of it that may or may not work great, but that's how we get there, And then there's also the idea of how we can mass produce things, but on an individual basis. And this is the concept of using variable data, right? Yeah. So right now for screen printing, for example, we have hybrid digital printing. Okay. There's a company called M&R that's got a product called a digital squeegee, right? So basically we take an underbase, right? It's a, I'm not going to get into all the stuff, but it's a water-based acrylic underbase, and they're going to screen print that. And then that keeps the cost down, but we're going to be digitally printing CMYK on top. Okay. And then, but this prints at speeds at 300 or 400 an hour, right? So this allows you to print high volume things, but you can personalize it with different things in the design. And that's really basically a different Photoshop image for each different iteration that you want. So let's say in your so let's say there's a college or a high school or something with a graduation photo, for example, right? We've got the main design, and then we want the senior portrait wearing the cap and gown as the picture, right? And we could upload that photo. We could upload their size, so we know that here are the photos for all the smalls, and here are the photos for all the mediums. And we just have to combine them and with the order process to be able to ship it correctly. Okay. And so this is mass producing that class of 500 kids that are graduating with a image that looks the same, but every single image is different because it's got the senior portrait on it. Okay. So this is personalized to them. They might want it, but guess who's going to want it? Their parents, their grandparents, you know, maybe their crazy Uncle Bill, who knows, right? So they can sell these. So you can get a class of 2023 t-shirt, right? But do you have one with my photo on it? Maybe the class of 2023 sells for one price, but the one that's individual sells at a higher price because it's unique to you. So the personalized experience here is what drives that commerce and that value, because nobody else has it.
So have we come full circle then, Marshall, in the sense that, you know, 10, 15 years ago, as you said earlier on, the print industry was very good at producing large volume at scale, but of the same thing. Then the market has sort of drifted along, and the consumer has realized that they don't want that anymore. They want something that's for them. And the industry has caught up with that and can now produce like 1 million wands.
Well, yeah, you can totally do that because we have technology for that, right? And and that's how a lot of these big companies operate, right? Is they print a lot of single orders, and they're using digital to do that because it's real easy to get that handled, whether that's a direct to garment where you're printing digitally onto the garment, or we're doing direct to film transfer where we're printing on a piece of film and using a heat press to apply it to the garment. Either one of those works, right? So traditional screen printing is too labor intensive to do smaller orders at a lower cost with higher profit, which is why you're seeing everything done digitally.
So here's my question then, because what you're describing is a great scenario, provided the consumer at the end of that value chain knows that that's possible. And my contention is, and you know, and I said this with all due respect to any print shop watching this today, my contention is that the print industry has developed its capability, but not stopped to explain it to its customer. And so there is a world out there of brands and retailers and agencies that are looking to be able to do the sort of things that you've just described, but they don't know how. And over here, you've got the print industry that knows how, but hasn't told anybody. So have we got ourselves an awareness gap?
Yes. And so there's an old marketing phrase that you should sell the sizzle, not the steak. I don't know if you ever heard that.
I have. Yeah.
But what we need to be talking about is how we're solving the problems. We don't have to explain to the buyer how it works. Nobody cares how the sausage is made.
Nope.
Okay. They absolutely don't. What they want to know is, I'm going to get a great looking shirt on Friday. That's what they care about. And so what you have to do is you don't really have to go so far down the education where you're showing them how this thing works, what's behind the curtain, right? Nobody cares. What they want to know is how my problem is being solved and where do I sign up, right? Your marketing has to be about the sizzle, not the steak. What are you solving? What is my problem? So I'm a Manchester United fan and I want my ideas on the shirt. So the marketing has to be about, it's personalized for you. You're the super fan, blah, 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 blah. We need to have that on there. How it's done, who cares? Nobody, don't even bother with that, because the soccer fan is not going to care about that. They just want something, it's an ego thing. They want something that their mates in the pub don't have. Look what I got. You don't have it. I'm better than you. How are you doing that, right? That's what matters to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And do you know what? In the 23rd episode of this podcast, that's my favorite quote: sell the sizzle, not the steak.
Well, I'm happy to provide that. I wish I invented it. It was probably some other smart person somewhere. I don't know who did it. But
Marshall, you've been fabulous to talk to on tonight's episode. Thanks ever so much for joining me on the Up Close and Personal podcast. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I very much look forward to meeting you somewhere in person in the future. Marshall Atkinson, thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Really appreciate you. Take care. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.